Coming up on Locked On Heat, Brendan Tobin joins me for the Heat temperature check. We'll talk about our feelings on the season so far, take an optimistic or a pessimistic view, and then I'll ask him if he's giving up on the whale chase. Locked On Heat starts now.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio, credentialed Heat media member, and excited to announce that Brendan Tobin is joining us today after a very long time. It's been a while since we've had you on the show, man. You know him from Tobin and Leroy on WQAM, and he's one of our favorite guests around here. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me, buddy. It's good to be back.
It's great to have you back here. We are doing, on the other side of the All-Star break now, a Heat temperature check. 26 games left on the season. They didn't do anything at the deadline. How disappointed were you that nothing happened? And what do you think should be the purpose of the rest of the season? Let's just start there.
Well, I think the purpose of I think my first thing I would like them to do is to try and find some way, shape, or form to get out of the play-in. I think that would be my first baby step goal is, could they get to the 6th seed? Could they just avoid having to play extra games? Could they get a week off for whatever playoff matchup they have to go into and not bash their head against the wall to go take on one of the top 2 seeds in the East? I think that is probably my first goal of the season since we're here, since we're not at get anybody, we're not at trade anybody, we're at we believe in our team again and we're gonna make a run and we're gonna get our guys back. So cool. Okay, well, let's make the best of it then. Like let's get the hell out of the play-in for once. Let's leave our kingdom of play-inville. And let's try and make it just to the playoffs. I think that would be my first goal, and I was hopeful that, with some of the schedules softening up for them a little bit, that would be there for them, but then they lost to a team trying to lose. So I just, I don't know when I can count on them being able to do that, Wes.
They have the 7th easiest schedule remaining in the league, and you take a look at around the league and the teams that are tanking, they have 7 games upcoming against tanking teams. Now, to your point, they lost to one of those teams who is the Utah Jazz, actively throwing games in fourth quarters right now. But still, I mean, that's a soft schedule, and that bodes well for them. Also, this is great for everybody, not just the Miami Heat, but people who have to watch this team every night. No more West Coast trips. No more 10 p.m. Eastern starts, which is great. So the schedule gets a lot easier for them going forward. They're 2 games back of Philly for the 6th seed. 2.5 games back of... That's not right. 3.5 games back of Toronto for the 5th seed. So that 6th seed, maybe the 5th seed is striking distance, but I would start the goal at just getting that 6th seed, to your point, just getting out of that play-in tournament. I'm with you. You're here. This isn't last year where you were flirting with that 9-10 seed, and it was either like, do we kind of lean this way and go in and just sort of stumble into the play-in, or do we lean the other way and just sort of back into a lottery pick? There's no way that this team is getting a lottery pick. Like that whole conversation is gone. Like Chicago, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Indiana, Washington, those teams are tank all the way.
Yeah, and the crazy thing with last year was, you had once all the drama was settled, everybody kept talking about clarity, and then they lost 10 in a row. Like that's so like they were the opposite of having clarity, and that was, I think, what just drove everybody nutty with that season. I do think that it would be nice to see them string some consistency together. I don't really care who it's against because we just haven't seen it. I think they've won back-to-backs once since the calendar turned. So, I think that would just go a long way. I understand they have had injuries. I will give them a little bit of a break. It's tough to give them much of one when you're, again, going against teams that didn't want to win those games. But I'm just hopeful that once they get everybody back together, and I'm not really counting Hero with that because this very much feels like a lost season, but I'm saying just get Norm, Wiggins back, Pelle back, and then whatever you get from Tyler is almost gravy at this point. But those 3 in particular to start this thing off, I think that it feels like Spo has kind of opened up his arms a little bit to getting Bam and Kel'el some time together. So I think that's beneficial, and I think that will be exciting for Heat fans to see because, like, look, put trades aside or like if those guys are on a team together, they got to figure out how to play on the floor together. So I think that's a very important element of this year so far. And I don't know. It doesn't seem crazy to me. I'm not asking for them to finish fourth. I think just please get out of the play-in.
They should pass Orlando. That the way the Magic have been playing, they're not playing very well, and Miami, they're not blowing the doors off of other teams. But to your point, they were injured. I think they really needed this All-Star break. Norm Powell should be back by Friday night against Atlanta in Atlanta. They should make a run here. I was going to ask you about Kel'el Ware and Bam. So we know what the numbers are. They're not great. Now, that is starting to trend in the right direction. They're actually a plus for the season now after the last week or so of getting a little bit more positive play. Bam starting to make shots. Kel'el starting to maybe turn another corner here. That balance of, okay, we're aiming for the playoffs. This is the aim. Everybody who says that this Heat team is directionless, it's not. We know what the direction is. It's 6th seed. It might not be the direction you want, but that's the direction. We're going to try to win every game. We're going to try to get the 6th seed. That's what the rest of these 26 games are going to be. But balancing that with, we also got to see what Bam and Ware are all about. We got to see what Pelle is all about. Like, these guys are obviously helpful players, but how much you lean into that youth movement, I do think is an open question.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I think the thing with Ware and Bam that I'm happy that he's the coach has flipped on is, like, he's not so against just finding them on the court together. Because I know when Pelle comes back, it's probably going to result in Kel'el not starting, which is fine. I mean, I'll live with that. But I just think that because Bam's going to obviously play a heavy amount of minutes every game, you got to find some way, shape, or form to get Kel'el some more minutes. And so that's just naturally going to blend over to he's got to play with Bam, and they got to have it work together, even if it's not starting together. Would I like them to start together? Yeah, but I'm going to be realistic. I'm going to be, be in the spot where I know where the coach is probably going to come from. So I'll be fine with Pelle because Pelle usually has led to some positive things for this team. But I just think that you have to be open, whether it be matchups or just time of the game, just to see it somewhat and see how it works with them together.
I'm with you. I think the part that always surprised me is how Spo went from starting Bam and Ware together to not playing them at all, right? Like, in pockets of the game, there's minutes there for them to play together, and that was the surprising part to me. And we've seen him mix and matches front court combinations of, it's going to be Bam and Nico, or maybe it's Kel'el and Nico in that second unit. Sometimes it's just Nico by himself at the 5 with a bunch of small players alongside him. So finding some consistency there, I think, would be huge, especially for somebody like Kel'el, who obviously thrives with a little bit more consistency. Really quick before we get out of this segment, while we're here still taking the temperature on the Heat, what did you think about the All-Star weekend? Keyshawn Johnson winning the dunk contest, Norm Powell playing for Team World. What did you think about how the Heat guys did?
I liked the dunk contest because I thought Keyshawn Johnson, you know what I just liked about him is he seemed like the only guy who just enjoyed being in the contest. So many times now it feels like everybody's just like, oh, I don't want to be there. And I remember asking them about the being in the dunk contest at Media Day, and he was kind of unsure. He's like, I don't know, like, people don't seem to really have fun with it. Good dunks don't get as good of scores as they probably should. So I was pumped up to see how he would perform, and he's just a great energy as a person, and so to see people like that get to shine on a stage like that, I thought was awesome. I also thought his dunks were really good, and the other thing that was for everybody who hammered on it, it was really the other 3 guys. I mean, one guy almost died, one guy just dunked, and he's 7 foot tall, and then Carter Bryant choked, and so, like, none of that had to do with Keyshawn. And so the game was kind of in the spot of, like, okay, he basically was the only guy to complete a first round dunk. That was nice. So he basically just had to get to the second round. So he did a little reverse, whatever. His third dunk was badass. Carter Bryant's was better, but Carter Bryant choked. I thought it was a good dunk contest. I think if Carter Bryant didn't choke, I think maybe we would have thought, oh, that was a pretty good duel. I also think the dunk contest it's a weird thing. Like, I remember this with Home Run Derby where they went from 10 outs to the clock. And I was like, it was too long, but then it went to, like, Home Run Derby on cocaine. And I feel like the slam dunk contest is a little like that. Like, 90 seconds is cool. I appreciate it moving fast. It feels a little fast. I don't know if it needs to go that fast, especially in the final round. Give these guys a little bit more time, because it does feel like the Vince Carter thing kind of screwed with Brian a little bit, but I enjoyed that. I thought the All-Star game was really fun too. I wasn't.
Can I jump in on the dunk contest?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I like that we're eliminating all the props for the most part. Like
Right.
Kashad dunked over E40, and by the way, he could have dunked on over E40 standing on top of E40. He cleared him. That guy is a freak athlete. But I like that we're doing away with something. You're absolutely right. I think these guys should get more attempts. I think I'm okay with that. Give them a little bit more time, but getting rid of the props and just dunking. Kashad with that reverse between the legs, behind the back dunk, that was crazy, dude. Like that is,
Right.
You see that kind of thing in person, and you're just like, are we the same species? I don't even understand this. So yeah, I thought Kashad was great, and it was great to see him. And the point of the storytelling part of this, these are the guys that don't typically get a lot of shine. Kashad especially has played 10 games all year in very little minutes. To see him get an opportunity to kind of show his personality on this stage was really cool. But your thoughts on the All-Star game?
Liked it a lot. I wasn't expecting to like it because it felt like everybody had already kind of put it in the bag. I wasn't watching it on TV. I actually had it on my phone. I was out and about, and then I was like, first game was kind of good. Like Wembanyama was bringing it. He obviously was the catalyst. Ant said that. It was pretty obvious. And I think that's kind of the beauty of Wemby is like, hey, when the guy who's 8 feet tall wants to play hard, you guys kind of have no other choice unless you want to look like fools. So I really liked it. I liked the World versus USA. I think I think they have an idea here that's good. There's some things I would tweak because it did feel like by the end of it, guys were gassed, and I also feel like they didn't really care about beating the other Americans. It felt like there really was something there with World and USA, and so I think that if they just went one game with these two, I think that they would have a home run. But I thought it was really good. Norm had that one shot to try and win it. It was kind of a hard one. They gave him the ball with 0.5 left to win it. And then he kind of got it going in the other World game late. But I thought it was a rock solid weekend for the NBA. I really enjoyed the All-Star weekend, and I wasn't expecting to.
Yeah, it was better than I thought too. I would like to see them bring back East-West in some way. I like the 12-minute quarter games, the round robin. I think it works. These short bursts, it's really hard for these guys to not try, right? It would be really embarrassing if you just went out there and laid on the floor like Steph Curry did a few years ago during a 12-minute All-Star game. But I would like, maybe you split up the World in stripes to East-West. I don't know. There's got to be ways to do it, but I'm with you. I thought these guys were a lot more locked in for it. I do want to ask you for a positive or a negative outlook on the rest of the season so far, or on the season so far, and then the rest of the season. We'll do that in a second, coming up after the break. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is a perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can your picks cash in, but it can also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades that you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O. It's the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal, and it works right from your phone or your computer, so you can keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Quo, QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're back here on Locked On Heat. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Brendan Tobin from WQAM is here with me. We're going to play a game called Half Empty or Half Full, where we talk about something that has us feeling good about the Heat or something that makes us not feel so good, Tobin. You can choose whichever direction that you want to go in, but I'll leave it up to you here. Half full or half empty?
I think if I'm feeling honest with how things went after the deadline, I'm pretty half empty because it felt the thing that I thought with this year, and this has nothing to do with them getting a superstar and trade. Like I didn't think the Giannis thing was going to happen. I was, the Ja thing did intrigue me, but it wasn't even about that. I just felt like from the whole time we looked at this roster, basically from the start of the season, it just felt like they needed to make some kind of a pivot move as far as like trading off one of their veterans to give a young guy some more time. There was a lot of overlap there in the starting lineup, and they just did nothing. They're just like, nah, we're good. We think this is the team. And with how the team was playing going into the break, I was like, you think this is the team? You think that's the way this is what you guys are satisfied with this? And you have just so many crossroads, Wes, whether it be Norm's extension, Tyler's extension, Andrew Wiggins' player option. Jaime Jaquez might get an extension. And I just thought that, there was going to be some decision about this year, but also with a look ahead to next year. And I just kind of feel like they were like, nah, we're gonna punt. We're good. We'll take some field position on this. They didn't even use the Terry Rozier money for anything, and then Terry ended up getting his money anyway, which is kind of crazy. So I think that's the thing I'm most frustrated with. I haven't felt like, since they smoked the Clippers that this team was really going to do anything. It's been pretty inconsistent since, but I've found a lot of that frustrating, whether it be because Kel'el's playing time went away or Bam went through another month where he couldn't score a basket to the injuries. So it's been pretty hard to find that optimism around this year, especially just based on where their record is. And also I think where some other teams in the conference in similar situations or could either pass them or further ahead than them. So I've found a lot of that stuff pretty frustrating.
Yeah, I have a half full take that I'll get to here in a second, but it's really hard not to feel half empty after that trade deadline, right? Because to your point, Giannis, there's only so much you can do. If the Milwaukee Bucks were never serious about trading him, then that's it, right? And Giannis is up to his whole Giannis cycle again, which we've already talked about on the show previously, but. The Ja Morant thing was also interesting. Like, I understand not wanting to give up a real asset for Ja Morant. Maybe Memphis was asking for too much. Like, I get it, right? From each individual case, you can make the basketball argument of, okay, I get why that didn't happen. I understand why maybe they pulled out of this or whatever. But in the totality of everything, it's, well, you couldn't make anything happen. And you see the level of creativity that some other front offices have in doing stuff. You just wonder if something was out there, and even to maybe take a step back to take a step forward. Now, Barry Jackson is already reporting that, no, the Heat didn't get any first-round pick offers for Wiggins or Norm Powell. How much were they actually trying to shop them, right? Like, how much were they actually looking for those first-round picks versus just waiting for those phone calls to come in when nobody around the league knows whether these guys are gettable or not? Maybe they're spending their time trying to chase somebody else. At the same time, you don't really see role players move for first-round picks right now, right? You look at what the Heat traded to get Norm Powell in the first place. Basically nothing. Keon Ellis, who was like the belle of the ball before the trade deadline, went for a couple of second-round picks. Could you have gotten 2, 3, 4 second-round picks for somebody like Wiggs or Powell? Maybe. Would that have been worth it? I understand, again, why on another individual case, why the Heat said no. We'd rather just kind of keep Norm. Well, we have Wiggins. We might need Wiggins' salary this summer anyway to make a bigger move, so we'd rather have that on our books than not have it and have a bunch of second-round picks that are kind of useless for us. So I get it, but then you look at Cleveland just kind of hold their nose and jump into the James Harden pool.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the Heat should have done that, but to be so risk-averse to not shake anything up while other teams are at least trying to do something, that I understand the disappointment in.
Well, even with Boston, right? Like Boston's obviously had a pretty model season with everybody thinking that this was going to be a gap year for them, understandably so, with Tatum being out. And then they, I think, just were like, oh, wow, we're better than we thought we would be. But they knew that Anthony Simons, they weren't going to keep him around. And so they're like, all right, well, let's get a piece that's going to for sure help us in the playoff run. And I like the Heat didn't even do that. They're just like, nah, we're going to just get better for the playoff run. And I'm just like, I don't know. I just feel like the Heat moves recently have been stuff that's kind of just smacked them obviously in the face. Like the Norman Powell deal, they're like, oh, of course, 10 times out of 10, you're gonna you guys want what? Okay, yeah, easy. You'll overpay for Terry Rozier. You'll give Kyle Lowry the extra year. Like there just hasn't been a ton of creativity, maybe outside of getting Davion Mitchell for PJ Tucker in the Jimmy deal, like on the back end of that. They did better in the Jimmy deal than I thought that they would, but they had to deal him because he refused to play for him. And it went basically the only team that was going to give him an extension at that point. So I guess you mentioned the word creativity. Like, I just feel like there's a real lack of creativity from what a front office that we all used to marvel at, like, oh, that was a pretty savvy move by them. And it kind of just feels like if it's not the most obvious thing right now, they don't have a lot of creativity to them.
Right. Turning Hassan Whiteside into pieces that ultimately got you Jimmy Butler. Like where is that level of creativity?
Right.
That's the tough part. I do have a half full take that I want to get to. We're going to do that on the other side of this. Plus, are we giving up on the whale chase for good, or is this going to be a Corleone situation where they pull us back in? We'll talk about that next. Today's episode of Locked On Heat is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping that the right candidates stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I'll be talking to you, companies like yours will make 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status that it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on Locked On Heat. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. We'll be right back. So here's my half full take, Tobin. Kasparis, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Pelle Larsson, Kel'el Ware. None of them are stars, may never become stars, but I feel like these are guys who can be legitimate high-minute guys in a high-level playoff rotation, and I think that's a win for where you pick them in the middle of the draft. You have 4 guys now at minimum who you can look at and say, those are real roster pieces. Those are real dudes. And if the Heat have learned anything from this season, again, still 26 games left here, but if the Heat have learned anything this season, it's they draft pretty well, they develop pretty well, and they've got some guys. Now we'll see what this summer brings. It may end up, you might overhaul the roster, but if you don't do that, you at least have to feel pretty good about, all right, like, we drafted well. We got these guys on rookie scale contracts. We feel good about our ability to do that at the very least.
No, listen, I don't disagree with you. I think that those guys have all shown themselves to have really impressive parts of this year. I mean, outside of the dud that's been Niko Jovic's season, the youth has really, really stood out. And I think that's the thing is I think a lot of the fan base is most excited when those guys do good things. And so when they feel like they're being kind of put in a box or not out there enough, then that's kind of disappointing, because I think everybody else, you kind of get it. Like even with Norm, I think people's like, yeah, he's an awesome shooter. We see it's been a great year for him, but what is he on a contender? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. But as far as the youth is concerned, that's definitely been a bright spot. It's a credit to the organization. I think especially, the fact that Jaime, basically who looked like Nico last year, just has completely bounced back is great news. for the organization. He seems to embrace that 6-man role, which is great. Jaquez is definitely coming along faster than I thought that he would. And it's funny that, he kind of burst onto the scene this season with like a monster shooting performance against Boston. You're just like, he has that in. Because I was watching those G League games and I was like, oh man, it felt like a while, like it was going to be a while for Kaz, and it really hasn't. He doesn't feel like he's in over his head, and I think that's exciting. I guess the question is like, when does he get the shot to like be a starting point guard? Is that 2 years away? Is that, with based on where the guard depth is on this team? I don't know. But he's been very impressive and it's come along faster. Where we've talked about up and down, he's probably the most intriguing specimen on the team because you feel like you could be irrational and talk yourself into whatever with him because of his athletic ability, but also knowing that he's got some ways that he plays the game that the coach is not fully in the mode of going through those growing pains all the time. But there's no doubt that youth group has shown itself well and is, for my money right now, the most intriguing part of the season.
Yeah. And I think that becomes a big part of these next 26 games, right? Is, hey, let's see these guys a little bit more, balancing that with trying to make the playoffs like we talked about earlier. I want to shift gears, looking ahead to the offseason a little bit here. Did you see this video, by the way, of Giannis at All-Star being asked, are you coming to Miami? And then he says, on vacation. Let's play the clip.
Giannis, we going to see you in Miami this year? Next year? For vacation?
That's what he says. How much are you reading into that, if anything at all?
I'm so done with this guy. I got to be honest with you. He's annoying the holy hell out of me. It reminds me so much of the Bradley Beal pursuit for years, because Bradley Beal would do the same thing year after. And I obviously know Giannis's credentials dwarf Bradley Beal's. Okay, so everybody can calm down. But what I mean by this, for Heat fans who remember the chase, I remember back in 2019 when Bradley Beal was like a scoring champion. I remember watching him, cook Miami. And I was like, this is the most impressive player I've seen this season. Like, he was that kind of impressive. It's really
like 31, 32 per game or something.
He was ridiculous. Yeah, he was ridiculous. But the thing that was annoying with him is he did the same thing. He liked the idea of being the face of the franchise. He didn't want to move. He liked getting all of his money, and then basically just got to the point of no return. And then he ended up being on the Suns because they were crazy. But this is so reminiscent of that, just because it's like Giannis really seems to like to be an icon, a face of a franchise, gonna have your figure in bronze in front of that arena forever. He's immortalized, and I think he likes that, but he also wants to ring chase, but he doesn't want to do it where it looks like he's ring chasing and leaving his team. And it's just gotten very, I think, annoying for the rest of the NBA fans, because we all obviously would love to have Giannis on our team, but like, this is just getting old, dude. Like, make a choice or don't. And like, even today, he's doing an interview, or whenever this was, Tate, with Malika Andrews. And it's like, would you, I can't say. I mean, as of today, it's always as of today. I can't say. I'm a human. These are fair things, but like, just
stop giving the interview.
Yeah,
nobody made you sit down for that.
What is the caveat right now? I don't even. First of all, you can't even leave now. Like, I would just be like, I'm a Buck for life, and then maybe things change in the summertime, and they just change. But this idea that you have to, always be the caveat cowboy with everything is just very annoying. And so, I honestly, at this point, I hope that he finishes his career in Milwaukee. Like, I don't think that he will, but I hope that's what happens. I think that I honestly think that's how he'll go down the most beloved. Because if he doesn't go somewhere and win the title, well, we can see with these guys, they kind of wander off. They don't really find that settling home. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with him finishing his career in Milwaukee. I think the thing that's been unhealthy, and from the Bucks perspective, though, would be like, if they felt like he was in, I think they could have done a lot better moves to get themselves repositioned. But these guys have been in this weird place of fear that their organization just looks ridiculous right now because of the moves they're pulling with this guy. So Yeah, I am so tired of his act. I got to be honest with you. This has been the most annoying Giannis season. I feel bad for Shams because like he obviously knows that Giannis.
Right.
I bet you Shams is like talking to Giannis. I bet you he knows he wants to leave. Like that's why he's been so bold on it. But he's like these damn Bucks. They don't want to. They don't want to let me go.
It's like that episode of Seinfeld, right, where he's the tennis instructor and he's like throwing the game, and the tennis instructor like is like, "Hey, let me throw the game here," and then he starts making fun of Jerry, and Jerry's like, "All right, can you lay off?" It's like
too much.
Yeah, it's too much. It's like Shams and Giannis, like, "Hey, listen, can you report all this?" And then it's like, "But I'm going to say publicly that I don't want any of that, but just keep getting that out there." And then publicly, Giannis is like, "Shams is a loser," and he's like, "Shams is like, hey, you're doing too much. You're doing too much."
We lived this last year with Jimmy Butler, where like they acted all outraged. Oh my god, how could you report that, Shams? I mean, what do you? It was like we all. I mean, they made Mickey Arison look like a fool on Twitter because it was like they put this dog and pony show. Like they were like Shams was getting fed lies, and it's like Jimmy's like got to talk about his agent shooting it down. It's like, all right, at this
I'm over
point,
all this stuff. I'm over all of it. Sign the extension in October, Giannis. Just be a Buck for life and just be right where you are right now, right in the middle of it, playing tournament team forever while you're paying Damian Lillard to not be on your team. You kind of deserve it. For a guy who is so obsessed with being liked, he's coming off as very unlikable, which I find being the ironic part in all of this here. Last thing, Tobin, before I get you out of here, this is a segment that I call Judgment Corner. I'm springing this on you. We'll do this one quick because I don't want to take up too much more of your time here, but out with a couple the other day. So it's me and my wife and another couple. And we order some appetizers, one of which is a spicy tuna roll. And there's 4 of us, and there's 5 pieces of the spicy tuna roll. Okay? So you can see where this is going already. We each get 1 piece of the tuna roll, and there's 1 piece left. Now, I understand that when you're out with people, there's the share pause, right? You have the share pause, you wait for somebody to make a move. You give enough time for everybody to, in the parts of their conversation and the rhythm of the evening, to have a chance at the sushi roll. However, the husband of the other couple went immediately for that 5th roll. Everybody
no questions asked.
No questions asked. No polite pause. Nothing. And his wife kind of gave him a look like, "Hey, like you didn't even polite pause on that. You didn't ask if anybody else wanted it." Now, I think the wife would have a point in most circumstances. But we're sitting outdoors and it's sushi. It's raw fish. Do you agree with me that maybe the polite pause is not a factor when it comes to sushi outdoors? That this is a specific case, or that the polite pause is a blanket thing that should always be adhered to?
Seems very reasonable for you. I got to ask the first question. Are you the one who actually took the spicy tuna roll 5th piece?
I was.
That was too much of a reason, Wes, for me to be like, wait a minute. How could he already have that logic in his head? Why would you defend the guy who stole the tuna unless you were the guy to do it?
I could have talked to him afterwards and discussed it.
Okay, here's another important. How many? So you said you had a bunch of appetizers. How many appetizers were on the table at the same time as the tuna roll?
1 other at the same time. It was a like a dumpling situation.
Okay. Did you also go in on the dumpling, or did you leave that up for fair play?
So the dumplings were actually split even. There was 4 dumplings.
Okay,
right?
okay.
1 for each of us. So that there was no issue with that, but I did have one.
Huh. How well do you know the couple?
I would say we were invited to their wedding.
I got no problem with it.
There we go.
I got no problem with it. If you know them that well, you've done multiple dinners, you've been to their wedding, like if it was like a first double date type of thing, I think you would have to. I bet you probably would have more pause.
I would polite pause there.
But yeah, if you know them well, who cares? If I was out with the hordes, if I was out with Leroy and his wife, and there was an extra appetizer, like I'm going in. That's it. Like my former producer Robbie the Degenerate, he had just a deal like he wouldn't eat until the seal was broken when somebody went in. But once somebody's in, like once we're all in, the rules are kind of off. That's it. Gloves are off.
And especially if it's family style. Like if we've all agreed that everything's shared, which wasn't necessarily the case in this one. I'm just in a different circumstance. If everything's shared, family style, you go in. Like you make sure I think that everybody at least has tried everything, and then at that point, gloves are off.
Yeah, I think you're okay. Is it because your wife wanted the sushi?
No, I know that she didn't. I know her. If she wanted it, I would have made sure that she would have gotten it first.
Yeah, I think you're in the clear there. I would defend you.
I felt so bad afterwards that I gave the guy half of my burger.
Did you really?
Yes.
Wow.
That I ordered as entree. That I didn't want the whole burger, so it was okay. But I think I more than made up for it. I think half a burger is more valuable than one piece of a sushi roll. But
agreed.
There we are. Brandon Tobin, thanks so much for jumping on, man. This has been Locked On Heat. Thanks for tuning in.